Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First and foremost, our thoughts continue to be with the victims of yesterday's accident, with those recovering, and the individual who tragically lost his life, Christopher Foley. It's a reminder that life is precious and a fragile gift, as all of us are praying for them and for their families, and for all the law enforcement, first responders, and our own colleagues who were equipped to respond quickly at the scene. May we find strength in God's grace as we reflect on this heartbreaking accident. As we heard from President Trump on Tuesday, we've been focused on solutions to get our economy growing again. Because of tax reform, 90% of workers will see their paychecks increase very soon, on top of the bonuses that their employers have already given them. An extra $1,000 may be crumbs to some, but just imagine what this means for the families who stress at their kitchen table when the bills are due and they try to figure out how they're going to stretch that last dollar. More money in their pocket every month means relief. It means certainty. And it means the hardworking men and women of this country who have waited way too long for wages to increase will have a reason to dream. These are the faces of tax reform. With more jobs coming back home, people are more optimistic and excited about their chances of finding opportunities to succeed. And that includes people with disabilities because of the expansion of the ABLE accounts in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Of course, we have more work to do to ensure all Americans and their families thrive in a more vibrant economy. And that's why we are all here this week. The administration and Republicans in the House and the Senate are coming together to discuss 2018 and our priorities, from bolstering national defense to rebuilding our infrastructure to bringing more people off the sidelines and into the workforce. We are encouraging our members to bring forward their policy ideas, to collaborate and find common ground, and to unite for a safe, strong, and proud America. Remember, it was the conference in 2016 that laid the foundation for tax reform. And it shows by coming together, finding that common ground, we can get the big things done. In addition, I'd like to thank my counterpart in the Senate, Senator John Thune, for the chance to work with him, as well as the Congressional Institute, who is hosting us these couple of days and did a large part of the organizing of the conference. We're grateful that the President, the Vice President, and many leaders within the administration will be joining us to be able to participate in those conversations. 1 year ago, we promised the American people that we would lead, focused on getting results, and that's what we intend to continue to deliver.
Thank you, Cathy. Welcome to West Virginia. As Cathy pointed out, it's a very difficult start to the retreat, obviously, and our hearts continue and prayers go out to the victims, the families of the victims of this very tragic accident. But we are focused on our agenda here at this retreat and looking obviously on what we were able to accomplish last year because we were able to work together. In the House and the Senate and the administration working together, we had a historic 2017. If you think about all that was accomplished, a record number of circuit court judges were confirmed, Supreme Court justice was confirmed, which will shape the courts for decades to come. We repealed lots of burdensome and overreaching regulations, literally cut the Federal Register by 1/3. We repealed the core of Obamacare when we got rid of the individual mandate. And of course, as was pointed out, with the historic tax reform, we are now seeing American workers benefit from higher wages, bonuses. Over 3.5 million Americans now, and 250 companies have announced expansion plans, increases in pay, increases in benefits, and bonuses. So already seeing direct benefits from that. And obviously, we've made huge strides in the fight against ISIS, and we continue to work on rebuilding our military. So it was a very historic 2017. It laid a great foundation, we believe, for 2018. We are here to discuss 2018 and what we can do. As you heard from the President's State of the Union speech a couple of nights ago, there's still a lot left on the agenda. But we believe that working together, House, Senate, administration, that this can be a very productive year for the American people. And we think that The lives of the American people benefit when their elected representatives work together in a way that will lead to get better progress, better jobs, higher wages, and a higher standard of living. And that's what we've been focused on this last year. That's what we're going to stay focused on in 2018. And we're looking forward and hoping, frankly, that we'll have help from Democrats. The Democrats will engage with us on some of these big issues that are in front of us in a way that will enable us to continue to get accomplishments and results on behalf of the American people. So thank you for being here, and we're happy to take a question or two if anybody has. Yes.
First of all, sorry about what happened yesterday. I know everyone's still pretty shaken by what happened. Are you working through spending level differences within the party while you're here? What are the chances of another government shutdown next week?
When you look at the agenda, you'll see that we have some time set aside for the House and the Senate to look at budget process, look at some of those issues around spending and setting some priorities. So I believe during that session, it will be a prime time for us to be talking about where we are as far as the negotiations. We've been very encouraged with the work that's been done to date between the House and the Senate and the administration to reach an agreement on the budget caps. We need that agreement, and we encourage the Senate, we encourage especially the Democrats in the Senate to join and come to a solution so that we can move forward and we can give that certainty to the country and avoid a potential government shutdown.
I think there's mutual agreement on both sides that shutdowns aren't good. And so I don't think there's going to be another one. My impression is from talking with our leaders and with the Democrat leaders, at least in the Senate, and I think that's true in the House as well, that whatever happens going forward in terms of an agreement on budget caps, which we, as you pointed out, need to achieve, and whatever happens with respect to immigration, that we will see a continuation of funding of the government, and those negotiations will continue. Senator McConnell has indicated, I think as you know, that if we aren't able to reach an agreement with respect to DACA by the end of next week, that he intends to bring a bill to the floor that can be debated and allow the Senate to work its will on the issue of immigration. So I think I just hope that the Democrats will be willing, given those commitments, to work with us on getting the caps in place. We really need to settle on the defense number. It's critical to our military and, of course, also the non-defense discretionary side of the budget as well. So those are negotiations continue, and hopefully there'll be an agreement soon.
Senator, you mentioned immigration. Your party's pretty divided on that issue, broadly speaking. What should people make of the fact that there's nothing specifically in the schedule set aside to even talk about that this week? Is it an actual priority for the Republican Party right now?
Well, it is. We agree with the President that we've got to deal with the issue of DACA. The question is it a much bigger, broader debate about immigration, which encompasses many of the other issues that have been attendant to that debate for a long time. My own view is, and I'm not speaking for myself here, I think that if we can solve DACA and border security, that may be the best we can hope for. But as I said earlier, Senator McConnell has indicated, and I've heard him in conversations with Senator Schumer the other night before the State of the Union, on moving forward with a debate on immigration in the Senate. So what that base bill looks like, or how that debate ensues from there, and what the amendment process might yield when it's all said and done, remains to be seen. But I do think that it's a priority to deal with the issue. There are obviously disagreements, sure, about what it ought to include. And I think the key is going to be figuring out something that can not only get 60 votes in the Senate, but pass the House of Representatives, and then be something that the President would sign into law. And that'll be a difficult needle to thread.
And I just want to add, we're covering a lot of issues at this retreat, and there will be time set aside where we can talk about immigration, the importance of a DACA fix. I would just highlight that there has been a lot of work that's already been done. Those negotiations continue. Those negotiations have been underway for several weeks now, actually since the President last fall made it clear that March 5th was the deadline for a DACA fix. So the House, the Senate, have been meeting, and then there's been other working groups and sessions that we've been having in the House to look deeper from a House perspective as to what else can be included. And we largely agree on the DACA fix, the border security, ending chain migration, and the visa lottery program reforms. That's where I support those top 4 priorities. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and we will have that discussion at the retreat too.
Congresswoman, with regards to, as you started last year, you said you promised at the end of the retreat to deliver tax reform. That was mission accomplished. And now you're heading into a different political climate this year with the midterms. What should the takeaway be from this retreat? Is it infrastructure? And my second question would be, how do you pay for that? Is it repatriation? Is it trying to attract private-public partnerships? But is infrastructure the main next thing that Republicans accomplish before midterms?
Right. Well, I'll let you know at the end of the retreat what the agreement is and where we decide we want to really focus in 2018. We had a great discussion, a session even yesterday when we first arrived here with Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan laying out the vision for 2018. We do want to spend time on infrastructure. Clearly, that's a priority of the president. We have a long list of infrastructure needs in this country, and if we could find a way to pay for it, I believe that the Republicans and the Democrats would love to be able to move forward and deliver a major infrastructure package for the country. The question is, how do we pay for it? And those are some of the very important discussions and opportunities for members to put forward their ideas that we will have even over the next couple of days. We have Elaine Chao that will be here. We have Gary Cohen from the White House that will be participating in those discussions, looking deeper at the public-private partnerships, the permitting reforms, the reality that it takes so long, on average 7 years, to permit a transportation project in this country. When it takes that long, time is money. And if we can really look at the reforms that would help us save money, that would help us pay for an infrastructure package and be able to get more bang for the buck. But I would just also take a step back, that we want to stay focused on the priorities, as Senator Thune said, that the people want us to be focused on. And I really believe it's jobs and the economy. And infrastructure is a part of that. But continuing to focus on how we grow the economy, provide more jobs, more opportunities. The speaker also laid out the importance of workforce development and the apprenticeship programs, because that, as we see the economy growing, we're seeing more employers that need employees and need skilled employees, and that too is a major priority that we're focusing on the programs that will give people the skills so that they can fill the jobs.
Quick follow-up on that. You mentioned workforce development. What exactly is that? Is that not poverty reform or welfare reform, as Speaker Ryan was talking about just a couple months ago? And if so, is the Senate prepared to do something like that?
Well, it is really focused on the programs that provide the skills. So there's a number of workforce development programs within the federal government. So it's looking at how we get more of those dollars actually geared at the programs where we see the needs. It's also focused on the expansion of the apprenticeship programs. Some of the other programs at the federal level, we did this with the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, where we were looking at reforming and reauthorizing those programs, but we want to build upon that work and really find out what we can be doing from a federal perspective that would help us as a country meet the skills gap that we're seeing. And construction is one of those areas, but there's healthcare, there's a whole host of areas where we need to be figuring out how we get more people into those fields and provide the training necessary so that they can fill the jobs.
So
We're not talking about cuts to housing. I do believe that we would look at restoring some of the work requirements that we saw the previous administration move away from, and restoring the work requirements within some of the federal programs, such that people would have to be at least getting skills, getting education, and moving toward a job in order to qualify for some of these programs.
Last question. On infrastructure. Has the president given you a detail on his infrastructure plan? How much it will be? Like we saw 1.5 trillion. How much private sector? And do you expect that the Senate and the House will take it over and produce their own bill? Who will be leading the infrastructure debate? Will it be the White House or will it be the Senate and the House?
It's obviously the administration is going to have a proposal, which we hope to hear more about today. As Cathy mentioned, we have Secretary Shao and Gary Cohn here to talk about the administration's views on that issue. And but you know, they're going to have, I think, a starting point, but it will represent a starting point, and Congress is going to have a say in this. The number is, I've heard 1 trillion, then 2 nights ago I heard 1.5 trillion. So it's, I mean, somewhere in that ballpark, and I assume they have an idea about, you know, probably with more specificity what exactly they hope to accomplish. But I think it involves a lot of public-private partnerships, and you know, that model I think will be relied upon significantly with respect to a good part of it. Now, there obviously there's going to have to be, and there is, from everything that we've seen, a significant commitment of funding to projects in rural areas, which obviously can't benefit or can't come up with a revenue stream to, you know, provide a return to investors on some of these P3 projects. So they're talking about, I think, 25% of the total funding going toward those types of the public funding, going to those types of projects. And I think infrastructure to be fairly broadly defined to include roads and bridges and the things that we traditionally think of, but then broadband and some other things as well. So, and in the House and the Senate, I mean, it'll be the relevant committees. It'll be T&I in the House, EPW in the Senate, and then our committee, I chair the Commerce Committee, will have a piece of that, anything dealing with broadband or rail or aviation or safety.
One more question. This retreat is happening as there is sort of an unusual and very sharp conflict between the FBI and some members of your party, including Chairman Nunes. Have you seen, Congresswoman, the changes to the memo? Can you speak to that? And has Chairman Nunes handled this correctly?
Well, I think I would really encourage you to ask those questions of the Chairman Nunes, as far as more details. I did have the chance to read the memo, and I walked away very concerned about what I read in that memo, and I believe that it does need to be made public. And the further questions at this point, I would really encourage you to talk to the Chairman.